Infinity Pool is directed by Brandon Cronenberg, the son of David Cronenberg, who directed The Fly with Jeff Goldblum, one of the most disgusting works of art ever made, and the film stars Alexander Skarsgård, Mia Goth, and Cleopatra Coleman. Infinity Pool is named very appropriately. Just like with a real infinity pool, it's hard to tell where it begins and ends. When I was first approaching this review, it was difficult at first to process my thoughts because I'm unsure which portions of the movie really happened and which didn't. Infinity Pool follows Alexander Skarsgård's character, James Foster, as he's guided by a seductive and mysterious woman. As they venture outside the resort grounds, they find themselves in a culture filled with violence, hedonism, and untold horror. A tragic accident soon leaves them facing a zero-tolerance policy for crime. Either you'll be executed, or if you're rich enough to afford it, you can watch yourself die instead. Hearing that concept alone is enough to make you scratch your head, but pair that with some extremely graphic scenes and some very clever camera and sound work, and Infinity Pool becomes a movie not for the faint of heart. The film is essentially a societal satire very similar to movies like The Purge or The Menu, but although we're so familiar with these kind of films, Infinity Pool is unrelentingly extreme in its approach to the subject. The brutal nature of digging so deeply into this topic pushed the movie's R rating to its limit, which would normally seem excessive to me, but this movie finds a balance because of how human it is. Infinity Pool gazes into the ugliest parts of the human condition. From narcissism to orgies to drug use, it never backs off tonally other than to land a few jokes here and there that worked really well somehow. I encourage you to go into this film having read as little as possible about it. I think Infinity Pool is one of those experiences that's worth experiencing without knowing what to expect. And as I alluded to earlier, the camera work and sound design were both extremely clever and refreshing. A huge percentage of this film is shot using close-ups or extreme close-ups. It gave the movie an unsettling vibe that I couldn't shake throughout the entire runtime. Most of the angles and choices were so weird that it added to the already bizarre concept, giving Infinity Pool a psychedelic quality at times. There was one sequence in particular that I won't spoil, but we're led to believe that it's probably not really happening, and then all of a sudden, it is absolutely actually happening. The way it was done was so clever, it's probably my favorite scene in the film, and I apologize for being so vague, but there's just no good way to talk about this movie without spoiling something. The sound design absolutely added to the vibe as well. Droning, ceaseless beats litter the background as we as an audience try to sort out what our eyes and ears are experiencing. The only other thing I'd say about the sound is actually a negative. It was super loud at times, almost startling, and I hate that. It's such a pet peeve when I watch a horror movie. I prefer to just be scared or unsettled somehow, but when it makes me jump, it's just an uncomfortable feeling that I hate. So if you're sensitive to that, just prepare for quite a few of those in this film. As for the performances, Alexander Skarsgård delivers a killer performance, elevating Infinity Pool above the limited potential of other films like it. He ate up every second of screen time with so much range and emotion. His character is emotionally conflicted in so many directions throughout the film that, as weird as the movie was, I felt like his strong performance helped guide me as to where we're at based on just what he's thinking or doing. His character is a lost and almost broken man who's multifaceted in so many ways. There is no black and white in this movie, and I think Alexander Skarsgård did a great job of taking full advantage of that character and elevating the movie as a whole. The supporting cast was also very strong, especially Mia Goth, who gave a memorable performance rivaling that of her two recent films. There's a lot of hype around her, which always makes me wary, but it seems well deserved, and she's becoming a huge name in horror, so I'm just excited to see where she goes from here. As for negatives, as much as this movie tries to sidestep potential comparisons to movies like The Purge, I couldn't help but see the similarities throughout the film. It took away from some of the originality of the film for me. It's so original in so many ways that I just didn't think it needed to shift into that direction. I also struggle with films that don't have a strong central narrative, and I know that's just a personal preference, but I also know there are many people like me. If that doesn't bother you, then I think you will really enjoy this film. There was also a fair amount of body horror that had me cringing and my stomach turning at times. I'll admit I'm not super used to that type of horror, but if you're into that sort of thing, again, I have a feeling you'll really enjoy this film. Even for die-hard horror fans, I have a feeling that this movie will come off as ballsy, and I really appreciate it for that. Overall, I did enjoy Infinity Pool. Pool. I don't think I'll be watching a movie like it anytime soon, and it may not be my kind of movie, but I absolutely appreciate its passion and creativity. You can tell Brandon Cronenberg really enjoys making movies, and I appreciate it for that. Keep an eye out for a Sundance movie review coming out this weekend. I apologize I didn't get to review many of the movies at Sundance. I had a ton of issues getting tickets, and now most of them are sold out, but I was able to get a ticket to one of the movies I wanted to see, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you guys again as always for watching. See ya.